away we go on a Wednesday, Mr. Irrelevant. I'm Alex Strouf with you from the Gruber Law Offices. One Call That's All studio at the Avenue in downtown Milwaukee. Joshy DiMaggio is here. Hey, Joshy.
So funny.
So today and Monday, I filled in on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, which you produce masterfully, might I add, from 7 to 9 a.m. on ESPN Milwaukee.
I was battling today. Technical difficulties up to wazoo.
Up the wazoo, indeed.
Those are the worst.
You barely notice.
But what I've noticed is when you and I spend essentially 3 hours together in the morning, 2.5, to then transitioning into this show about 3 hours later, you've had enough of me.
Yeah, I mean, and this goes for anyone. Spending that much time around any singular person while completely sober, it's not for me. It's not my thing. I usually get annoyed with most people. It's not you specifically. Now, you did just particularly annoy me a lot because I told you all these. I read off a list of things, Hunter. I gave him every detail he would ever need, and then he responded by asking me 3 separate questions that were all inside of my first sentence.
Oh, that's so on brand.
Yeah, so I was like, after he asked the third one, I said, I'm done. I'm done here.
Yep.
I'm not going to answer this question anymore. Because if you would have just listened initially, you would have known.
Yeah,
that's
Hunter
too
Vaughn's
easy.
Back in the Everlight Solar Studio in downtown Madison. It's just very much me, right? Like, what happened was I was not really paying attention, and then you said something that caught my ear. So then I asked follow-up questions, and then Will Summers, who's also here, responded with, he answered all of those in the initial sentence. And then you heard Will egg me on, and so you started egging me on. You're like, nope, I'm done talking to you. So
Yeah.
I thought I was going to get irritated, Joshy, in this program.
I have a friend who, if somebody asks her what or huh, she responds with the same what or huh. She just refuses to repeat herself. Now, that wouldn't work for us here on the radio, but I think I'm going to adopt that in my personal life. If you didn't hear me initially, too bad. It's gone.
What?
See you forever.
Huh?
Huh?
It's not bad. I like that. All right, let's get into free agency. NFL free agency still open. By the way, Michelle Smallmon of ESPN Radio's UnSportsmanLike will join me a bit later in the show. We talk all things Packers. They've got a cool thing going on with Travel Wisconsin ahead of the NFL draft. So especially if you don't live in the Green Bay area, something to look into there before the end of the month. And we will explain that when Michelle Smallmon joins us of UnSportsmanLike on ESPN Radio a bit later. So we were live Monday while free agency opened. And the floodgates began to open. Every big name was flying off the board like crazy, as it always happens on day one of free agency. But the thing that was strange, maybe not strange, but maybe, at least for me, unexpected, was by the time we were off the air after an hour and a half plus, around 2 o'clock on Monday afternoon, the Packers had done nothing. A couple hours later, they announced 2 moves that are fine, right? They signed a guard in Aaron Banks, former 49er, to come in and likely play left guard. And then they sign a cornerback by the name of Nate Hobbs from the Raiders, who is fine. It's a depth corner and can play a little bit in slot, which kind of validates Keyshawn Nixon's claim of playing more outside, which obviously he did more of last year. But it's not a Travarius Ward. It's not a DJ Reed. It is Nate Hobbs, who, again, I hope he's great. I hope he's the next Charles Woodson, for all I care about, coming from the Raiders. But at the end of the day, there were few big names on the open market. And the Packers not only did not sign any of them, they really weren't in the conversation on any of the guys we would have anticipated them to be in the conversation of. The thing that threw me off was Aaron Banks, the new guard, which, look, Jordan Love dealt with injuries last year. You do whatever you take to protect your top dollar quarterback. I get that. I'm fine with the move. But they signed him for more than Josh Sweat, who many viewed as one of the best defensive linemen in free agency, signed with the Arizona Cardinals. And while I'm not completely shocked the Packers haven't addressed edge, or wide receiver for that matter, I'm surprised by the moves they have made. Right? Corner's not surprising. That's a position of need. But offensive line, I just kind of thought, okay, they're going to move on from Josh Myers. Elton Jenkins will kick in. Jordan Morgan will take over at left guard. You've got your 5. Right? You drafted a guy in the first round last year for a reason. But instead, they sign a guard. And now begs the question, where does last year's first-round pick fit in to the offense? He's going to start. You invested a first-round pick in him. But who does that kick to the second line? Does Rasheed Walker not play left tackle next year? Does Sean Ryan go back to being a depth piece? That's where I'm tied up. Because you, do not pay a guard this much money as much as they paid Aaron Banks. You don't pay him that much money for him not to be a crucial part of your offensive line, which he will be. So that's a question I have, but that'll get answered in training camp. The questions I more have are the lack of activity at the positions we think have bigger needs. Right? Wide receiver. We talked Monday. Packers never reached out to Devontae Adams. The DK Metcalf thing ended up probably working out better than we expected, right? He got paid a lot more money than I think the Packers would have been comfortable paying him. So they were never really in the conversation for DK Metcalf. But what about some of the other names? They've flown off the board, right? We jokingly brought up names like Josh Palmer, and now Marquez Valdes-Scantling is a Seahawk. They have not addressed the wide receiver need one bit. And that was the one room, especially, and Ed's really the same thing, that a veteran presence felt necessary for Green Bay. It didn't feel like, oh, this would be nice. It felt like if this team wants to compete for a Super Bowl, veteran presence is necessary. And 2 days into free agency now, on the third day of free agency, the names that are left are not sexy. Right? There's no way of splitting those hairs. Amari Cooper doesn't move the needle a ton for many. Stephon Diggs off of an ACL tear does not move the needle for many. So we are now at a point in free agency where, what do you do? I don't know that anything can change now, right? Unless you trade for Trey Hendrickson, as we said on Monday. I don't know that the Packers are going to, indeed. I don't know that the Packers are going to do anything that changes your mindset of this is not a championship-ready team. And while I am still optimistic that there will be improvements from guys like Lucas Van Ness and Jaden Reed, I don't think they're going to evolve into Super Bowl caliber superstars, Super Bowl caliber talent. And that's where I get really thrown off by Brian Gutekunst's approach to free agency this year. There were clear needs. And there are still clear needs. Corner, I like that they added an Nate Hobbs. We'll get to Jaire in a bit, but there's a decision coming on him. They likely draft a corner or two, and then they call that position good, which I'm fine with. But edge needed an upgrade. The whole defensive line could use some sort of a facelift. You didn't get any. Wide receiver needs a veteran presence. You don't have one. That's problematic to me in Brian Gutekunst's approach here the first couple days of free agency. And again, this is not me saying this is going to be a doo-doo team. I don't think the Packers are going to be 6-11 next year. But watching what the Bears have done, offseason champs 3 years in a row. The Detroit Lions got better. Now they lost both of their coordinators. How does that work out? And the Vikings, once again, just seem like they're probably just a quarterback away. Now, whether that's J.J. McCarthy, Aaron Rodgers, or somebody else, we will find out. But I am concerned on the little output the Packers had. Despite spending a lot of money, it was not sexy money. And maybe I just have a craving for skill position players, game wreckers, superstars. But signing a guard and a depth corner just does not feel like that it equals the sense of urgency that the general manager was preaching at the end of the regular season.
There's multiple things I'd like to pick apart from your diatribe there. One, in terms of literal needs, the Packers didn't have a center. So they've shifted Elton Jenkins and signed Aaron Banks. So now they have a complete offensive line. Jaire Alexander and Eric Stokes are both going to have new homes come the start of the season. So in terms of needs, they literally went out and addressed their biggest needs. The problem is you are, and we mostly are lower on where Brian Gutekunst is in both the wide receiver room and the edge rushers. I think aside from Davante Adams, I'm not disappointed in anybody going elsewhere or anybody ending up on another team. DK Metcalf, too expensive. Davante Adams, apparently too old for Brian Gutekunst. This was and always was and was talked about before free agency even started, an extremely weak class. Many of the guys who we thought might be options to improve the edge rusher room or even the wide receiver room either got tagged, re-signed, or are staying put where they are. You look at Chase Young. His contract, he wasn't even able to be available. Like, he wasn't actually a free agent. They signed him to a new deal, but he still had today was the day he would have been available. And that's the reason why we haven't seen anything regarding Aaron Rodgers really at this point either. He also had to wait it out until they were officially became free agents. So to me, it goes back to bring back Davante. That's where the disappointment is. There wasn't, and there aren't going to be options that are just available on the market that are going to change how you feel about the Green Bay Packers team. There is potential for trades. You mentioned Trey Hendrickson, obviously Brandon Ayuk. When we talked to Shefty earlier today on Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, you asked about Brandon Ayuk, or Chewy did, and it seemed like they were still moving him, which I thought that ship set sail. Got to be careful when you say that one. That ship set sail because I thought it was due to Deebo Samuel, but it seems like, and we're going forward from here, they're okay with Juwan Jennings and Ricky Pearsall as sort of their two out there. And Brandon Ayuk is seemingly still an option for teams. Now he's got that injury, which is going to be a big factor in any movement of him.
It just doesn't feel very Packers-esque.
I think it feels very Packers-esque.
To trade for Brandon Ayuk?
The guy that they tried to trade up for initially.
Right, but that's drafting him.
And the guy that's, 26 now, 25? It's more Packers to trade for Brandon Ayuk than it is DK Metcalf. It's more Packers to trade for Brandon Ayuk than it is to sign Davante Adams.
Probably also accurate. I'll give you that.
Now, does he become available or does he not? For what we wanted, the Packers would have needed two teams. It takes two to tango. The tangoing happened between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Seattle Seahawks. Looking at I saw Ryan Wood, who covers the Packers, say, well, you have to pay top 10 for top 10 wide receivers. DK Metcalf ain't a top 10 wide receiver.
Speaking of diatribes, I saw you went on a little Twitter diatribe in relation to DK Metcalf being a top 10 receiver. I listed off 19 guys top of head that I'm like, that guy's probably better. Yeah. So, I'm glad the Packers aren't paying a guy who caught 66 passes. And, we're looking for a target hog. We're looking for a receptions guy. Right. We're looking for a leader. DK Metcalf is physically imposing, looks like a leader, but he's not going to catch 100-plus balls. He's not going to score 10-plus touchdowns. No. That guy just wasn't available. Could I make the case that Davante Adams would be that? Yes. Could I make the case Brandon Ayuk would be that? Yes. Could I make the case T. Higgins would be that? All yeses. Mm-hmm. It's just, we're disappointed basically by one thing, and that's Davante Adams. And I don't think that's a fair criticism because who and what, you're going to sign Josh Sweat? He's not that good. Josh Sweat is a lesser rusher than Rashawn Gary, if you boil it down to it. Let's go to something you said at the top, which is you and I view the issues bigger than Goody views the issues, which is without a doubt a fact at this point. But also an issue to me. I need Goody to view it how I view it. Because I'm watching the same football, bro. Well, and what wins you football games? Skill position players and a pass rush.
I think we are over-invested in fantasy football world. I think Chewy's fallen victim of it to a guy who there's probably no more football guy we have here at ESPN Wisconsin than Chewy. You guys want sexy names. And building you typically don't just get to pluck superstars off of other teams. No. Those guys are usually homegrown.
Correct.
Now, if we want to point back to drafting and it not going the way you want, the past 2 years, Goody has hit absolute grand slams in terms of draft classes.
Yes, outside of the first round. Yes.
Instant contributors. Guys who matter in big ways. Jaden Reed is the type of guy any team would want on their team. Tucker Kraft, also that. Edgerrin Cooper. Those are all guys that are burgeoning stars of some level. You still have some growth to happen that you would like to happen, but you can't just go out and take the best players from other teams because you want them. They have to be available. And right now, there weren't that many available. There was less than 5 guys, I think, available in free agency that would have made a difference on the Green Bay Packers.
Agree to disagree on that. I want to give you credit, though. You do a masterful job of talking to me like I'm 7 years old.
Yeah, sometimes you have to.
Yep.
He goes, just so you know, by the way, you can't just take other teams' best players.
Well, because that's what it sounds like, and that's what I'm hearing from not just you, from everyone from Packer. Go to Twitter. It's a cesspool.
Well, it always is.
Every person is smarter than Brian Gutekunst. I don't think everyone's personal scouting departments is better than Brian Gutekunst and the Green Bay Packers. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that. If you want to disagree with me, that's fine. And he's not infallible. No GM is infallible. But I think the front 7 and the offensive line are probably one of the most important things you need to address. They did it with Aaron Banks. What are they going to do in the draft? There's a lot of picks there. Goody's almost certainly going to move around.
Yep. Acquire more picks.
It's incredibly likely the Packers end up with a wide receiver in the first 2 rounds and a defensive lineman in the first 2 rounds. And those guys are going to be expected to contribute. And hopefully they do. Like, one of these first-round picks for Goody is just going to be a superstar. Yeah. That's going to happen.
Well, will it, though? Can we say that with absolute certainty?
I will put my life on Goody drafting a superstar, as long as he maintains
in the first round.
Yeah. Of course. That's how it goes.
He's due at some point.
I'm saving
because
that.
It's been since what, Jaire? I mean, you can count Love if you'd like.
It's a pretty big home run if you ask me.
I mean, I would agree. Wasn't a home run in year 1, though.
Well, it wasn't a home run for 3 years.
That's what I'm saying, right? But we're talking about instant contributors, so that's why I didn't count Love initially.
I think it's informative what Goody said where, well, some of these wide receivers are contributing right away. I think he tipped his hand. I think he let it be known that that's going to be a focus early. So
you have really, even since Monday, have operated under the assumption that, maybe not under the assumption, but with a hunch that the Packers could break the first-round wide receiver streak. They have not drafted one in the first round since Javon Walker.
Yes, because while I think you and I'll include myself, view wide receiver as a bigger need, I think Goody realizes it is also a need. And how do you make your first-round quarterback that you just paid a bunch of money look better? You give him more talent. Now, is there a chance, an outside shot, that they're like, well, Tucker Kraft is going to be our star wide receiver, our star pass catcher? Sure.
Yeah, I've had that debate this week. I don't think so, though.
That doesn't seem like a real... Will he see more targets?
Yeah, he should.
I sure hope to God he does. The guy proved he can do it.
He's an awesome tight end. He's a great talent. He's going to be really good tight end in the
Great
league.
compliment.
Yes.
But I would prefer a wide receiver. I think the Packers are trying to build a team that's stable, and that when the right guys become available, they'll do it. Like, I don't view Goody as conservative as some other people do. He probably should be a little more of a risk taker. But you don't have to be that much of a risk taker when you're just consistently good. And you believe in your scouting departments to get you better.
But that's how you stay relevant. That's not how you win championships. No? And obviously there's got to be some luck involved with the draft and some of the homegrownness, right? We always reference the Eagles because they're the most recent team to do it.
I think Goody's approach is going to win the Packers a Super Bowl regardless. Now, if you want to be...
You're as optimistic as anybody I've talked to.
If you want to be the Chiefs, if you want to be the Eagles, and probably make it back 2-3 times in a short period, they're not going to be that team. That's just not... I just don't view them as that, and I don't actually currently view Jordan Love as the type of talent to take them there. But they are going to be consistently good, and hopefully the ball falls their way enough times to get in...
Yeah,
I think Goody's career 1,000% contains a Super Bowl championship. That's just how I think.
I hope you're right. I mean, obviously, I hope you're right. But I do struggle looking at the moves the Vikings made and looking at some of the moves the Lions have made. And again, I'll point out, they lost both of their coordinators. That's going to hurt them. But I still think that those are teams that are ahead of the Packers as it stands right now.
Well, the biggest thing is J.J. McCarthy going to matter?
Yeah.
Is he good? They're sold on him, and I admire their confidence because I don't know if he did anything more than rookie camp.
Not really. I mean, the initial idea was never for Sam Darnold to be their starter.
Right.
Sam Darnold goes out and has the best season of his career by far, and now gets a big payday from the Seattle Seahawks.
He was ruled out for the season before training camp, if I remember correctly. Because
I think that's right.
I was drafting best ball teams, and I had to pivot. And there was a lot of time left in the offseason where it didn't sink my ship because I was drafting J.J. McCarthy.
Didn't sink my ship. So you were a McCarthy guy.
No, I'm a McCarthy guy in terms of late quarterback backup option that is a rookie and has potential more than like I probably wouldn't have taken him in the first round, but circumstances matter.
Sure. I hear you on that. I am just, I don't know. And I'm not even trying to be negative because, again, I want to point out, I do think this is a playoff team. I do think this is a good football team. I just feel a little shortchanged about this week. And again, it's not like I have a million names that I would have preferred to Aaron Banks and Nate Hobbs.
Is that your fault or Goody's fault?
Probably mine.
Because I felt that way Sunday into Monday, and then I looked at all the contracts, I looked at all the landing spots, and I went, sure, teams got better in the margins, but most of these free agents are going to matter to their team like minimally.
Yeah.
There's no Saquon Barkley.
No, there's not.
There's no Xavier McKinney.
Xavier McKinney, right.
There's no Josh Jacobs.
See, I mostly agree, right? Like, if you would have signed DJ Reed instead of Nate Hobbs, I think we feel differently right now about. I think
that's just a difference in opinion, though. I don't know who's better.
Yeah, you do. Who's more proven?
Who has a longer track record? Sure. But the 5'9", 30-year-old or the 26-year-old who's like the best guy in the league at covering the slot? Like, that to me is just, you know a name, you don't know a name. That's what's happening there to me. Because why would I not trust Goody to know like who the undervalued talent is?
Again, this is not the case I'm making, because you're right. Goody has always been pretty good at that.
Yeah, their pro scouting department is amongst
really
the best
solid,
in all the league.
really solid.
Yes.
So again, I'm not making the argument that these are bad moves, right? I think these will end up being good moves.
You didn't get sexy names.
I didn't get sexy names.
You're sexy name deprived.
But
I think that's probably a good way to put it.
Josh, you don't
They
think
didn't get your loins hot.
you don't think that Josh Sweat would have a bigger impact than them getting a guard? Like if you just swap those two, you don't think adding an 8 sack and then before he had 23 QB hits back-to-back years?
Nope.
That's insane.
No, I don't. 8 sacks is that's whatever to me.
That's fair. I mean, that's Rashawn Gary territory.
Yeah,
but he didn't have as many snaps as Rashawn Gary.
I need another starting guard and I need another cornerback. Like,
yeah, I hear you.
I understand.
They're not sexy names.
Yeah, but like I understand needing the guard, but like with the way that they have that line.
Do you think Josh Sweat looks as good as he does without
Jalen Carter and
Jordan Davis and all the Nolan Smith? Like, I don't.
I mean, he looked good before those guys got there.
He looked fine.
Yeah, and I'm saying he looked better before those guys got to Philly. He looked better than what Rashawn Gary and Lucas Van Ness have. So he would have been an upgrade and helped them look better.
An upgrade? You think he's an upgrade over Rashawn Gary? Then sure. I don't think they viewed it as that.
Well, it's clear they didn't.
And I don't view it as him as a big upgrade.
Well, I'd just throw out there that Rashawn Gary is making $50 million more.
Hey, I didn't pay him.
You're just stuck with what you're stuck with, and I got to roll it up.
I wouldn't have paid him that. Because I've been saying basically since year 2, pressures are great. Bring down the quarterback.
Yeah, and he's always struggled
with that. Not great at that. Not great. Loves to fly by him, get close.
Has always struggled with that. So we will see what kind of impact these make. I'm fine with the signings. Again, this is not me knocking Goody for the swings he took. This is more me knocking Goody for the swings he didn't take and the problems that haven't been addressed. I'm fine with both of them, and I hope they are Packers Hall of Famers and multiple-time Super Bowl champions. I think the Nate Hobbs signing is actually, I'm good with that one. Corner, as we talked about, that was a position I couldn't wrap my head around on how they were going to approach it.
I also don't think. I think if you expect the Packers to draft a corner high, you're going to be disappointed again.
I think they might go the safety route. So they might go, okay, we draft one in the third, we draft one in the fifth.
No. No. Paying too much there.
It doesn't really matter.
I think it is worthwhile to look at. Last year, remember, I kept saying they're not going to draft corner, they're not going to draft corner. They did it.
Not until Kalen King.
Well, who practice squad. I don't think they're going back that direction.
So you're good with just trotting out Hobbs, Stokes.
Yes.
Or not Stokes.
You can't.
Nixon, excuse me.
He's going to be on the other team.
Yes, you're right. Hobbs, Nixon, Valentine.
Am I okay with it? Yes. Do I think they could upgrade? Most certainly. But it doesn't matter what I think. It matters what the GM thinks.
You are pulling the "I'm smarter than you" card today.
And I'm pulling this is what happened, and this is my reaction to it. I can't help that it seems like I'm talking down to you. These are just reality. These are just things that happened. I'm reacting to them accurately.
Sure, but you've reverted back to, okay, this is fine, everything's fine.
I made it clear for months that I wanted Davante Adams. I don't have him. What am I going to do about it?
Well, I still think they need to address receiver, and they are running out of options.
How? You can say things.
Cooper Kupp? Better than what they have right now.
Cooper Kupp would not beat out Dontavian Wicks right now.
I don't know if it's a beat him out thing, because I think there's enough snaps to go around.
Sure. Does he help you with your vertical threat issue?
Not particularly.
No. Him and Jaden Reed are going to be running into each other because they run the same routes. And one of them's much slower now and much likely to get injured. He's an injury risk. Jaden Reed's going to blow him over. He's actually pretty big. Probably wouldn't happen that way.
What about like Deontay Johnson?
Oh, I'm good.
Did he get cut 3 times last year, or was it twice?
Yeah. I think he was traded once and cut twice.
I was looking at like
because he was.
I was looking at
Ravens, Panthers, Ravens.
Ravens. No, I think it was Panthers, Ravens, Texans,
and then back to the Ravens, right? Because he ended the season with the Ravens.
I mean, maybe he was on the Texans.
I think he had 2 stints with the Ravens.
It's possible.
Let me double check that. Go ahead, Hunter. Sorry.
No, I was looking at Spotrac before the show and just trying to see like what was left at receiver that wasn't 30, and he was like the first one. It was like him and then like Rondale Moore, which I just always picture him as the athlete from Purdue.
Oh,
he's a little fella.
I was so right, by the way. Get this. So Deontay Johnson, on March 12th of last year, traded to the Carolina Panthers for a cornerback and a pick. He was then traded to the Baltimore Ravens on October 29th.
Yeah.
On December 20th, he was waived by the Ravens.
Yeah.
Picked up by the Texans.
Yeah.
December 23rd. Lasted about 3 weeks with the Texans.
I was going to say, he was waived in the playoffs, I believe.
He sure was. He was waived January 14th.
When they were desperate for players.
January 14th, he was waived by the Texans. The next day, he was picked back up by the Ravens.
I mean, that.
He's the crappy version of Brandon Cooks.
Quote, Johnson was not eligible to play the rest of the season and became a free agent after the Ravens' divisional round loss.
Yeah. I don't see that guy. There's a reason you get traded cut for 2 teams that really needed wide receivers.
Yeah, correct. Well, MVS is off the board now. He goes to the Seattle Seahawks. Does that one bum you out at all?
No. I mean, it bums me out insofar as the Packers' options got thinner.
Yeah, much better.
You need a Jaden Higgins.
There's no one left.
You have to draft a Jaden Higgins, or you have to draft a couple of the guys. Like, there's not that many. Like, the body type of MVS or Christian Watson, size speed combo doesn't really exist that often. So you really limited yourself.
Uh-huh.
Even the small guy, Tez Johnson, we were all supposed to be excited about his speed. He ran like a 4.55 at like 150 pounds. That's not going to happen either.
That's my speed. Uh-oh, what do we got?
Free agency alert. Marcus Mariota going back to the Commanders. I just wanted to use that sound.
I got really excited for no reason.
No, that's exactly why I did it.
Well played. I thought it could have been Aaron Rodgers. That would have been interesting.
Marcus Mariota to the Commanders. Awesome.
Returning to the Commanders.
Yeah.
Hey, I liked him. I wanted him to be a lot better than what he was.
Oh boy. Now I'm deflated. I thought Hunter was about to chime in with, "Oh boy, Packers got a receiver."
I mean,
no.
The next name we hear is going to be like Robert Rochelle coming back on a cheap deal. Like, I don't know why you would ever think it would be the Packers signing someone. Amari Cooper wouldn't move the needle for you at all.
I mean,
you just let Cooper Kupp become an option, but Amari Cooper's not one.
I mean, I'd be open to it.
I think you'd get excited.
Daniel's pissed off. Of course, I hear him.
At me?
No. Daniel says, "Did Hunter just say, of course he is?"
I just assume the second you look at the YouTube comments, like, it's going to be somebody's mad.
Daniel says 1-5 versus the division. If the Packers go out in the first round again or don't make the playoffs, then what? Well, stuck in the same problem you have, which is my problem. But Joshy is the ultimate Goody defender today. We can acknowledge that he's not fixing the biggest shortcomings. Now, the line, I will give you credit for because it crumbled against the Eagles in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Corner is obviously a shortcoming because they don't have anybody on the roster.
Lost two.
They lost
one, and they're going to lose the other.
Well, no, they've lost two because Corey Ballantyne is also out. It counts, right? Like, he's still a depth piece.
Corey Ballantyne is a guy you can just get anywhere.
He's a warm body.
He's the definition of a jag.
He is a jag. I wonder where he is.
Probably a free
I'll look
agent,
him up.
if I were to guess.
Josh Myers is still a free agent.
Yeah, I saw rumblings of his market being big, and that seemed to have been his agent trying to drum up some interest.
I don't think it worked.
No.
There were some good centers on the market this year, but not looking too good. He's fine. I mean,
right. And are you signing fine? He's fine in the first couple days of free agency, or are you going to let the market tinker down? You go, well, at least this guy's fine, and we got him for cheap.
Yeah.
Corey Ballantyne, by the way, an unrestricted free agent.
Yeah, I had a feeling. I can't imagine there's too many people knocking his door down.
I'd bring him back.
Sure, why not? Fourth corner.
Keep the law firm intact.
You're the fourth corner and the 6th D-back off the bench.
Amazing. All right, hold on. We got to look at Jaire because today is the day that we will likely see a decision made, or could see a decision made on Jaire. Our buddy Rob Demovsky tweeting earlier today, "Today could be the day for the Jaire Alexander news. The Packers haven't released him yet because, quote, they're still holding out hope they can get something in return in a trade. If they want to designate him a post-June 1st cut for cap purposes, they have to wait until 3 p.m. today." So we have a few hours until that decision will likely be made. Nobody's trading for him. I think we can all agree. If that was going to happen, it would have already happened. Because Goody would have accepted a conditional 7th-round pick. Right? Like, you're saying yes to that deal every day of the week.
You would imagine. I don't know, though. I don't know what the holdup is and why they haven't released him. If that was going to... There must have been some teams that expressed some sort of interest.
I have good news for you.
What's that?
Cooper Kupp is officially a free agent.
Oh, because
as of this moment, yes.
I think I think I would be more disappointed in free agency if the Packers added Cooper Kupp.
God, that would be a fun storyline, though. I mean, like, I love chaos, and that would feel like very chaotic.
I can't envision a less Packers guy and Goody guy than
Cooper Kupp. Yeah, he's very close to the bottom
Have you
of the
ever
list.
seen the amount of touches he had in college?
Who, Kupp?
Yeah.
But no, I guess I don't know that. He went where? Eastern Washington?
Like, on football players on earth, there's like running backs and then Cooper Kupp's next in terms of like physical abuse they've taken on football fields. He caught tons of passes and then went to the NFL and just did the same thing.
Did the same thing, man. He was so good in 21 for them.
Oh,
right?
my
I think he won
goodness.
Offensive Player of the Year. It was right there.
I
Oh,
just
boy,
looked
he
up
was
his stats. Here we go.
It's insane.
His freshman year, 93 receptions. That was his
Holy
fewest.
smokes.
Then
Oh my
2014 as a sophomore in 13 games, 104. 2015, 11 games, 114. His senior year, 2016, 13 games, 117 receptions. He had 21 touchdowns as a freshman.
Yeah.
Dude is balling day one.
Okay, so we're out on Cooper Kupp.
There's guys being drafted in the first 2 rounds who have less career catches than he did his senior year. And that's not a joke.
No, it's legitimate. It's legitimate. Yeah, that's strange. All right, we will see how the Packers continue to approach. You think they're done entirely outside of like small, if they bring back a Corey Ballantyne, just given the example we just used?
I'm leaving the light on for a trade, but I think they're done.
I think so too.
Yeah. And if a trade happens, I think it's probably going to be even closer to the draft.
Before we get to Michelle Smallmon, I asked you this a couple weeks ago. Which position are you more comfortable running it back with? Is it edge or is it receiver?
That's a tough one.
It's probably edge.
It's probably edge, but I'm not thrilled about it.
Because you've got Gary, you've got Van Ness, you've got Enigbare.
Yeah, there's at least bodies there. The Packers are literally one body less in the wide receiver room.
Yep.
And you could make a case, I would call it into question, that Rashawn Gary will be better. Mm-hmm. I don't know how much, even if both Dontavian Wicks and Jaden Reed improve, I don't know. And I would cast serious doubt on them becoming a wide receiver 1. I think they're both going to be plus complementary players, but I don't think they're going to be like franchise altering type level players.
Yeah. Huh.
See, I just think if you left the receiver room the way it is and you get a genuine upgrade on that D-line, that makes the entire defense better. I know the offense would get better if they had an upgrade at receiver, but I don't think, especially after what we just saw the Eagles were able to do against the Chiefs, you saw Tampa Bay do it against the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. When you have a legitimately great defensive line, that you're winning a Super Bowl off of it. Like, great. You have a great receiver room. Awesome. Teams with great receiver rooms don't always win the Super Bowl. More often than not, you have a really good D-line, you're being competitive and able to get to a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think Goody believes what you believe. I just think with the way the roster's currently constructed, the wide receiver room is way behind where the edge is, and I thought the edge was probably the worst part on the defense.
I totally agree. I think your theory actually about first round wide receiver or early wide receiver is correct, especially at this point, right?
Right, because there's just no options left.
There's no point in bringing Keenan Allen just to bring in Keenan Allen, right? No. We're past that point. So at this rate, it is draft one early, draft one mid, and just hope they can contribute.
Yeah.
But that worries me because I felt like the inexperience. The Packers are among several teams who have been eyeing Cooper Kupp.
Oh, jeez. Who's that from?
I just want to see. Ari Myrov is the one that tweeted it.
So he's gotten that information from somewhere else.
Typically.
So
Well, no, that's not the computer guy.
That's a real guy. I've seen him on a podcast.
He's real.
But
who's the fake guy? Dove Kleiman?
Well, Dove Kleiman was once a real guy. He's no longer.
Wait, what?
Yeah, he sold his account.
Yeah.
You don't know this story?
Strouf, we've talked about this.
Some random
But
person.
Dove Kleiman is not a real person.
Dove Kleiman does exist.
It's a real human being.
Yes.
That's his name.
Yes.
Oh.
He no longer runs the account, though.
I just thought it was a fake name for an aggregator.
There is a man out there.
Hold on, real quick. For those of you that have no idea what the hell we're talking about, there is a Twitter account on X, on Twitter, by the name of Dove Kleiman. And he is an instantaneous NFL news guy, right? Like anytime there's a piece of news from the NFL, it gets pushed out immediately. He aggregates all the reporters, right? Your Schefters, your Rappaports, etc. Takes all of their reports, and if they tweet something, he immediately tweets it right after without giving credit. So people have learned this is not a real human being. And ultimately, here we are. So, but Ari Myrov, real person, has said the Packers, that is the only team name he said. So it is a quote tweet of his initial, the Rams are officially releasing Cooper Kupp. And then he says, the Packers are among several teams who have been eyeing Cooper Kupp, waiting for him to be released. I mean,
I hope that is the same amount of eyeing that they did on DK Metcalf.
Here's the thing. Would it hurt?
Yes.
I don't think it could.
It would make Jaden Reed less of a player on the field because you cannot play them together that often. It's not. Your offense is going to be so stunted. It's going to be 7 yards is the max.
Yeah.
Great. 7 yards and then a 4-yard Josh Jacobs run. You got a first down. Let's go.
All right. Well, we'll take some time to debrief this Cooper Kupp news. We will bring in Michelle Smallmon from ESPN Radios on Sportsmanlike. We will come back. We will do what we learned. Final thoughts on the Cooper Kupp news. Whoa, I didn't think I'd be saying that today. That is next. Here is Michelle Smallmon from Unsportsmanlike. Irrelevant rolls on live. ESPN Wisconsin. Alex Strouf with you from the Gerber Law Offices. One call outside studio in downtown Milwaukee. Excited to be joined now by the heartbeat of ESPN Radios on Sportsmanlike. It is the great Michelle Smallmon joining us courtesy of Travel Wisconsin. Smalls, NFL free agency in full swing, and you're putting up with Canny and Evan every morning. How's the week been for you? It's been flying for us here in Green Bay despite a lack of moves.
Well, Alex, first of all, thank you for having me, and thank you for the compliment, the heartbeat of ESPN Radio, the heartbeat of Unsportsmanlike. I'm going to use that to my advantage. Next time the guys give me trouble, I'm going to be like, you can't mess with me. I'm the heartbeat. But yeah, no, this week has been absolutely flying by. The carousel has been moving, obviously, of players going to different places. Still waiting on a couple of key quarterback pieces to drop, namely Aaron Rodgers. I'm very curious to see where he's going to end up, as I'm sure a lot of people in Wisconsin are as well. But yeah, it's been a really exciting week. But you mentioned I still have to deal with Evan and Canty every day. So, that throws a wrench into things. Kidding. Love those guys. Are the best. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. And it's been really interesting to see where some of these players land.
So let's actually start with Aaron Rodgers, because I did want to get into that with you. And we had Adam Schefter on this morning, Jen, Gabe, and Chewy, and he's like, yeah, you can't predict Aaron Rodgers, right? The timeline is uncertain. We don't know. We think he wants to play. We're not certain he wants to play. He could be in Peru doing ayahuasca. He could be, I have no idea where he is, what he wants to do. This Pittsburgh Steelers thing seems to make the most sense for him, right? Seems like a good offense, a stable head coach, stable organization that always wins at least 50% of their games, always in the playoff contention talks. The Giants have been doo-doo, lack of a better term, the last couple of years, right? Like that's not an ideal situation. So Pittsburgh seems to me to make the most sense. But then there's that curveball of, well, what if Minnesota doesn't think J.J. McCarthy is ready? So I'm not really sure, A, how long this is going to take, and B, where he ends up. As you try to parse through what makes sense for Rodgers and those teams, where have you landed at here as of Wednesday morning?
Well, it might be a fool's errand to try to figure out the mind of a self-proclaimed enigma, but let's try. Let's give it our best shot. So I'm with you when it comes to Pittsburgh, because if I'm putting myself in Aaron Rodgers' shoes, obviously these past 2 seasons with the Jets have been a disaster. And even though he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, will strut into Canton, no problem. You're playing football for a reason. And obviously he loves the game, but this is also a person who for the past couple of years has had to go into the darkness and contemplate retirement. He is very vocal about his interests outside of football. He has a life outside of football. So it's not just this love of the game that would keep him here. So I can only arrive at the conclusion that he wants to compete for a championship. He wants to win outside of Green Bay. He wants to further his legacy. Obviously, that's not going to happen with the New York. Why wouldn't he be running to Pittsburgh if that's on the table? As you mentioned, to play for one of, if not the steadiest organization in the NFL. You get to play for a Hall of Fame coach in Mike Tomlin. There's some weapons there. You've got a strong defense. You're going to likely have a winning season and or punch your tickets to the playoffs. And that's really all you can ask for if you're Aaron Rodgers, an opportunity to compete for a championship. But just like you mentioned, and we had Dan Graziano on the show today, and he threw that out there as well. Why would he be waiting? Yes, he likes to take his time. Yes, he likes to think things through. Yes, of course, he loves the drama and the attention, and he probably loves that he has options and he's holding this thing up. But what if he's waiting for Minnesota? What if he's trying to complete the full Brett Favre and he's looking at going back to a division he's familiar with a team that's pretty turnkey? You have offensive weapons. You have a strong defense. You have great coaching. If J.J. McCarthy is not ready and they're looking for an option, Aaron Rodgers could be a pretty good one, despite his age and despite the fact that he won 5 games and had a QBR in the 40s last year. He could be a good one-year solution for them if they're not ready for J.J. McCarthy or J.J. McCarthy's not ready for them. But I also think about that locker room, and I think about how culture is so important to Minnesota, just like it is to Pittsburgh. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers parachuting in there is the answer, but it would make a lot of sense as to why the deal has not been done with him yet if he's waiting on Minnesota.
Yeah, you would not be able to convince me that time is not a flat circle had he ends up in Minnesota, just like Brett Favre did. That would just be there's not words that describe how ridiculous it would be. It would be
I know, right?
So entertaining from an entertainment standpoint. Perfect. But
and the irony with him that for so long it was, I don't want to be the next Brett Favre. I don't want to be the next Brett Favre. For you to literally follow in his footsteps would be pretty ironic.
Be so good. Michelle Smallmon of ESPN Radio and Sportsmanlike with us here on ESPN Wisconsin. Michelle, for those that don't know, you're a St. Louis native, so obviously your Rams left you. Last offseason, you did your own Bachelorette-esque version of finding your next NFL team. You landed on the Packers. Year one of being a Packers fan is in the books. In your own words, just tell me how it went, because as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I grew up in Green Bay. I'm a Packers fan through and through. I've been through this before. Year one for you was how was it?
Roller coaster. I would say overall, if I was going to give it a grade, I would give it an A because we're still in the honeymoon phase. And I can't tell you how refreshing it was to care again. And I know that sounds silly because we're sports fans, but for those who don't know the complete story about how the Rams were ripped from St. Louis, it was brutal. And for a long time, so many St. Louisans felt anger and apathy towards the NFL. And I, of course, for my job, watch every Monday, Thursday, and Sunday. And I look for storylines. There are certain players I would root for, but it's a very empty feeling to not have some sort of an emotional response to a game every week. And so for me to come in, choose the Packers, to get such a warm welcome from Packers fans, to get to go to Lambeau and experience that for myself, and to have a team that was a playoff team that was good, that you didn't know how it was going to play out, that was awesome for me to feel again. I know, again, that sounds silly, but the ending was not what I wanted. It was inconsistent. It was frustrating at times, glorious at times, but I would say the overarching theme was that I was thrilled to be a Packers fan. But now that we're on to year 2, Alex, the expectations are different. I understand the standards in Green Bay. It's not good enough to just make the playoffs. We're talking title town, okay? And we need the Packers to keep pace with the other teams in the division.
Well said. Yeah, we're getting out of the honeymoon phase, I sense.
Yes.
Which is great. That's growth. I like that. Now, you experience your first full offseason, and we get through the first couple days of free agency. It's a corner. It's an offensive guard. Nothing too sexy from the Packers in terms of free agency, right? Didn't address receiver, didn't address edge. Now, where are we at in terms of confidence entering the draft and next season, as you don't see any, crazy moves happening? There's no Myles Garrett in town. There's no Max Crosby in town. No Devontae Adams. Where are we in terms of confidence as we approach the draft and next year?
So I do like some of the moves that the Packers made. I love that they went out there and got Aaron Banks and gave Jordan Love some more protection, because obviously part of the inconsistency that we saw from him this past year was that he's injured. So give him some more protection. I also like the addition of Nate Hobbs at corner, but I was praying for DK Metcalf, Alex. I don't know where you fell as far as which receiver you liked, but as soon as I heard that DK Metcalf could be an option, I was like, imagine him on that Green Bay offense. Imagine what Matt LaFleur could dial up with DK Metcalf and the different looks that that could give Jordan Love. Oh, I was really hoping that he would land there. But maybe they'll address that in the draft. I'm really looking forward to see where they go in the draft, but I was a little bummed out that they didn't go out there and take a big swing when it came to receiver, because I'm looking around at the division and there's some question marks and a very highly and hotly contested NFC North. So even though the Lions are coming back healthy, and I would be shocked if they had anywhere near the amount of injuries they had last year, especially on the defensive side of the ball, you expect the Lions to still be the class of the division. We don't know what it's going to be like after losing 2 coordinators. We saw it with Philadelphia 2 years ago when they lost Jonathan Gannon and Shane Steichen, and they had to recalibrate. So you don't know how that's going to impact the Lions losing Aaron Glenn and Ben Johnson. I don't know if the Vikings are going to be as formidable, because who's going to be their quarterback? Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers? Is it going to be JJ McCarthy? While we assume that Kevin O'Connell is going to be able to extract that magic out of JJ McCarthy the same way that he did Sam Darnold and, of course, Kirk Cousins, it's not a guarantee. Also, the past couple seasons, the Vikings have won a lot of close games. Is that a bubble that could burst? And I hate to say this to you, but I'm a little nervous about what the Bears are doing. I'm a little nervous about the Bears. They go out and get the hot guy on the block when it came to head coaching vacancies, and Ben Johnson. We obviously know his creativity when it comes to the offense. Caleb Williams publicly campaigns for him, and in that same breath says, I want someone to challenge me and somebody to make better. So he seems committed to improving things that he needs to improve upon, like holding the ball too long. And then they go out there and they make a lot of aggressive moves, fortifying both lines, which is so smart. It's smart football decisions. Like, what? We don't expect that from the Chicago Bears. And there's always a team that goes from worst to first, and not suggesting that the Bears are going to be the top of the division. But I'm just saying, from where I sit as a Packers fan, I'm like, wow, there's a lot of questions. And are we, as the Green Bay Packers, doing everything we can to make sure that we're taking advantage of where we sit in the division?
Yeah, welcome to the fandom. I mean, the good news for you is I will give you this tip as you enter year 2. The Bears always find a way to screw it up.
Okay,
right?
good.
I hear you, because I did this last year with them. It's like, oh, Caleb Williams is walking into the safest situation or
Yes.
the first overall pick ever has, and they find a way to screw it up. They're doing the right things. They've won the offseason each of the last 3 years. We'll see if it finally translates for them. Minnesota, it's the quarterback that I'm wondering, okay, is McCarthy going to be their guy? Will it be a Rodgers? Will it be somebody else? They could still be an 11-12 win team, and then Detroit is still the favorite in the North. So we will see. But it's again looking like it's going to be the most competitive division in football. But we'll be all right. Michelle Smallmon on Sportsmanlike with us for just a few more minutes. So as we approach the draft, have we started the campaign for Michelle Smallmon to announce a pick? We need to get you up there in like round 6 or 7, right? On day 3, get you up there, announce a pick. Have we started that campaign yet?
I haven't even thought that. That has not even been an idea for me. But now I'm very excited about that, and we should start the campaign. Can you imagine? That would be beyond a bucket list item. That would be insane. I would love to do that.
The campaign begins now, and you can get to the draft with Michelle Smallmon. Go to travelwisconsin.com/draft by the end of the month. March 31st, your deadline. You can come, you and a guest come to Wisconsin. You're going to stay in Milwaukee. We're going to bus you up to Green Bay. You're going to experience the draft. Michelle, Evan, Canty will be there on Sportsmanlike. We'll be live in Green Bay. Travelwisconsin.com/draft. You're looking forward to getting back. I hope the weather holds out at the end of April. Should be good, I think.
It should be good, but either way, whether good or bad, you know we're going to have an amazing time in Wisconsin and, of course, in Green Bay. I cannot wait to go back there. It's one of those places you know better than anybody growing up there, that the second you come into town, and again, I took a bus there from Milwaukee when I went to the game this past season. The second you step off that bus, there's just this buzz and this excitement and this energy in the air. You know that you're walking onto hallowed ground, hallowed football ground, and it's just such a special place. And for so many people who maybe haven't been to Lambeau or haven't been to Green Bay for a game, for them to get to come to the draft and experience it, I think it's going to be awesome.
Can't miss out. TravelWisconsin.com/draft. Get that in before the end of the month. Michelle Smallmon from UnSportsmanLike, beginning at 5 a.m. Central on ESPN Wisconsin. Great catching up with you. Let's do this again soon.
Absolutely, Alex. Thanks for having me.
That was Michelle Smallmon with UnSportsmanLike. I don't know where Alex Strouf went off to, so I guess it's the Hunter Vaughn show until he decides to come back and actually do his own show. Yeah. This is not awkward at all, YouTube. I'm so glad Alex Strouf has decided to do his show. I guess that'll wrap it up. We'll finish up actually with what we learned, since I did actually learn something and I'm still here to actually do the show. So I learned that the Dallas Cowboys have not spent more than $6 million on a NFL free agent since they got Greg Hardy in 2015. So I'm real happy with my team. It's great to know that, like, working on this show, I have a team that's actually committed to doing a great job. So
Are we here?
I don't know. Are you? I'm not seeing you on the camera, Alex Strouf.
Oh, he never turned us on.
You're not even on the
We've
camera.
been here the whole time.
No, you're literally not on the camera. I don't know what the two of you did.
I don't know what to tell you. We didn't do anything. We've been sitting here the whole time.
Strouf didn't leave the room, and I went to the bathroom and came back and listened to the entirety of the interview.
When the interview got over, I started saying that's Michelle Smallmon. You can listen to UnSportsmanLike from 5 to 9.
I touched nothing.
ESPN Madison. And then Hunter was just bitching about me. And I'm like, what do I do here? I'm sitting right here.
I touched nothing and was texting you, and you chose not to respond until after I started going.
Yeah, because you said 1 minute as I was sitting right here, so I figured we'd be fine. And then you texted me hello twice, and I said, we're sitting right here. I was talking. Did you turn us off? And then you turned us on, and I was here.
I didn't touch the board. I did nothing.
Interesting.
Interesting how we magically reappeared. Incredible stuff.
I literally touched nothing on the board. I refreshed for the video, so I don't know why that happened, but I touched nothing on the board.
You know whose fault this is?
Blame somebody.
Will. Will's back there by all the controls.
Well,
didn't touch one thing, but I knew this was going to come back on me somehow because Hunter messed up, and somehow it's just coming back to me.
I touched nothing.
I also touched nothing.
We got to touch nothing off.
Well, how do we proceed? This is a unique one. We went from where is Strouf to me yelling, I'm right here, and then nobody could hear me. So that was good. I'm good to be back, I guess. Good Lord. Oh, my God. Really, Strouf? You suck. Okay, well, thank you.
Good input.
Wow. I don't know how to proceed. Do we just end the show?
Feels like it.
What an ending. Hope you enjoyed Michelle Smallmon and the chaos that proceeded after the fact. I don't know how to proceed, so we're just going to call it a day. We're back with you Friday. Beginning at 12:30. Josh, any final thoughts? Cooper Kupp, going to be a Packer when we talk on
Pass.
Friday? Is he going to be a Packer when we talk on Friday?
I sure hope not.
I don't think he will be. I'm curious why that report's come out, though. Because it doesn't seem like it makes sense.
We discussed this when it was the DK Metcalf. Are the Packers actually reaching out or are they not? Packers are seemingly a team everyone knows seems to have a need at wide receiver. So you throw their name in as an agent. Hopefully it gets run out there a little bit and it drives up the cost.
All right.
Goody has said as much. He said sometimes we're not even interested. We don't even know what they're talking about. That could be possible. Or the Packers are going to run 2 slot players out and Dontavian Wicks. Fun.
Alex Strouf doesn't want to do a show. That's what we learned today. We're back with you Friday beginning at 12:30 Central. ESPN Milwaukee, ESPN Madison on YouTube. And available wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Wisconsin On Demand. That will do it for us. We'll talk to you Friday. Peace.